Hello, welcome to another segment of our program, Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell. With me today is Mr. Clephane W. Terrific Roberts, and he is the Managing Director of Success Concepts International and the duly nominated for the United Progressive Party government for St. Peters. Good afternoon. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, super terrific, Nikki.
I shouldn't have asked.
Nikki or Malika? I'm here.
You can say Malika. That
right.
makes you comfortable.
It's a pleasure to be with you on.
Thank you.
What do you want to
Your
call it?
right to know.
Right to know.
And our pleasure to tell. Isn't it a pleasure?
It's a super plump, pleasing pleasure.
I like that one. I want to jump into our conversation today.
Yes.
But how do you feel right now, knowing your stature, knowing how everyone else know you, that man of God, that strong, God-fearing man, and you're in politics, how do you feel right this minute?
At this point, I'm very comfortable in my skin because
Yes.
I have heard from the Lord. I've heard from God. Hope I don't offend anybody who is listening at this point,
Yes.
but I'm speaking from my conviction. I've
Yes.
heard from him. I've inquired of the Lord, and
Yes.
I've had my mandate. Let your light shine, brother.
I like that. So you 33 years in education, but
Yes.
from education to politics,
Right.
what brought you to that decision?
33 years in education and education to politics.
Yes.
I must say that I had no intentions of running for offices in
Yes.
this way. I've always played leadership roles in churches, congregations, fellowships, and so on. I think I'm a born leader, you know.
Yes.
By the way, I looked up my name, Clephane, and so on, and I discovered that Clephane means leader, champion,
Nice.
you know.
Yes.
So that's all right. But I've always loved children, loved teaching. Anything that has to do with imparting knowledge or facilitating learning, I just get excited.
Yes.
And I never saw myself doing anything else. As a matter of fact, when I got out of school, that's what the first service I took part in is educating,
Okay.
facilitating learning in young children.
Yes.
And so I've spent like 33 years. Started in 1981, the same year we got independence here in Antigua and Barbuda.
Nice.
So if I always know how many years we're celebrating for independence because it's the same number of years.
Yes.
I'm actually serving as an educator here. Got out of school, I think, in 1980, June 1980.
Okay.
And I started working in January 1981. I started in the primary school system with the government of Antigua and Barbuda. Spent first 3 years there, then went on to the teacher training department at the Antigua State College, and we did a certificated program by the University of the West Indies. So I am certified educator by the University of the West Indies, and then I
Okay.
went right back to the government system, continued my teaching education service, and then I left the government system in 1991 and picked up service with the Seventh-day Adventist church. You know, they have a church school
Yes.
in St. John's, and I went there with my wife. By the way, I should have told you that I'm a happily married man. I guess you will get there.
Get there, you know. I'll ask.
We'll get there, right?
All right to know.
We'll get there.
Yes.
And my wife and I actually taught with the government. We
Okay.
broke record. I can't remember any husband and wife teaching at the Potters Primary School where we taught.
Okay.
So we both served there together, and we both left together for the Adventist school together.
Nice.
And picked up service at the Seventh-day Adventist school together. And so we've always worked together for quite a long time. Spent 6.5 years there
Okay.
at the Seventh-day Adventist school. And then I've always heard from the Lord when I have to move on.
Yes.
And so in 1997, moved on, established Success Concepts International
Yes.
in September of 1997. And we kicked off with our first Student Success Seminar in December, and it's just history from there, from Student Success Seminar to
Yes.
Easter Enrichment Program to SCI Summer Camp, SCI Enrichment Health and Fitness Camp to Secondary School Beginners Workshop to Confidence Building Workshops and all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm having fun.
Excellent. But the decision for politics, what
Oh yes,
brought you to
that's
that
right.
decision?
I was actually going there Just about a year ago, I must let you know, a year ago, I had no intention. Let's say a year ago, January. I didn't know I would have been here today. 1 year later.
God have a way of doing things.
God moves in mysterious ways.
Yes.
His wonders to perform. And we just got to move when he says to move.
Yes.
And so it was a Friday morning. I'm in my kitchen, you know. I usually go a little slow on Fridays, you know. And I got this telephone call. And on the other end was a representation of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister's office, and I said, this is Clephane Roberts, yes, and so on. And the person asks, the PM is interested in finding out if you're interested in serving the nation as a representative for, you know, one of the constituencies.
Yes.
You know, they say we're changing, the boundaries will be changed and so on. And we obviously will be having a new constituency. And we think that you could bring home the seat for that new constituency, which would have been St. John's Rural East Central, including Potters, where I served and went to school and so on. So they did their homework a little bit, you know?
Yes. Oh, they researched you well.
Yes. So, and right off the bat, I said, I'm not interested in that kind of thing, you know. I was thinking conventionally, you know, what we know conventionally, what politics is about,
Church and politics
and what,
and the
you know,
mixing,
what people say, well, politics and religion kind of mix and all that kind of stuff. And then, like, I heard something within say, you didn't even consider it. You didn't give it a thought.
Yes.
And so something within me said to the person, give me 2 days. Just as I'm telling you now. Give me 2 days. Let me inquire of the Lord concerning the way forward. So check me back on Sunday. I'll have an answer for you.
Yes.
Decided yay or nay.
Yeah.
And so I did just that. From the time they left, I kept inquiring of the Lord in my spirit. I went to the Bible. I'm very bibliocentric.
Yes.
You know, I live by the principles that are documented in the Bible. We refer to as the Word of God.
Yes.
And I went from the beginning. Genesis, God created man in his own image. He said, let them have dominion over the earth. I said, that's politics.
Yes.
Yes. I said, from the very, very beginning. I said, that's politics. And then I moved on, and Israel was established, and, you know, God is ruling. I said, that's politics. That's leadership, you know.
Yes.
And then Israel wanted a king, and wasn't God's will, but he allowed them to have a king, and he chose the first king. I said, that's politics.
Yes, it is.
Even before that, Joseph went into Egypt and became prime minister.
Politics.
I said, that's politics.
Yes.
Went across and checked out Esther's life. I said, that's politics. And then I checked out the 3 Hebrew boys and Daniel operating in Babylon. I said, that's politics.
Yes.
I said, well, I'm convinced by now. Then I went to David and all of the kings. That's politics. By Sunday morning, the last voice I checked was the voice of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. And I said, the best place for me to go is the Gospels. And I went to Matthew chapter 5, and I started reading. You know, Jesus went up into the mountain. When he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth, and he taught them, saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom. I said, kingdom, that's politics. You know, the kingdom of heaven.
And leadership.
And I went all the way down. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God, you know.
Yes.
And so, like, I'm getting some principles that will be governing my life as a politician in this new thing now. But what clenched it for me was verse 14, if I'm not mistaken. It says, you are the salt of the earth. If the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? It is thenceforth good for nothing, but to be thrown out and to be trodden on the foot of man.
Yes.
I interpret that to say, if you are not making sense in your society, then you are good for nothing.
Yes,
you know?
Plain as day.
And that was clear. And the clencher was the next 2 verses, 15 and 16. You are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, so that it gives light to all that in the house. In the house for me is the nation.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Politics.
And the final verse, which I consider my mandate for this experience, is verse 16. Jesus says, let your light so shine before men, Clephane, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
Yes.
It's clear to me. And then I said, yes, I'll do that. So by the time the guys came and checked me, the PM himself came and checked me. He didn't leave it to anybody.
Yes.
He himself came to my home that Sunday afternoon.
What has the experience been like from then to right this minute?
Very mixed. For me, it's always been exciting, but there are other people who got a little disturbed, the church folk and so on who have the concept that ministers or what have you and God-fearing people should have no part in politics because they think that politics is dirty and mean and people who get involved in politics are thieves and greedy people and robbers. And so when people hear that, some people who have that mindset kind of got a little disturbed in their spirit until I explained to them my reason for being in this arena and so on. So I must say that I'm getting more encouragement now than in the beginning. And so on. And you would also know that I am a spiritual facilitator and the founder of an independent ministry. I think that's where the guys got a little concerned during the nomination on the other side because they thought that I was a minister of religion. I'm not a minister of religion, but I'm a spiritual teacher and a facilitator of the fellowship there, the Agape Fellowship in Painters. And so I'm comfortable. It's great. I'm learning a lot of stuff. I had to do some research and check people out, check out different types of politicians all over the world. God-fearing one, bad man.
I like that one.
I came across all kinds of people in office, and I decided that I prefer to be seen as a statesman rather than a conventional politician.
One of the things we would say, if we're still talking about the church folk, to use that terminology, we've been calling for godly politicians. Now, if a man of God stands up and says, listen, I want to represent in the political arena, shouldn't we be rejoicing and supporting him?
You should be embracing me, man.
Yes,
you should be saying, go for it, brother, go for it,
we're behind you. Because we're asking for godly politicians.
That's right.
But
I really do think so.
Yes.
And so I really want to send a word out to those who will be watching this. If you're Christocentric in your paradigm, your worldview, have no fear. God is the sovereign ruler.
Yes.
I tell God is the original politician.
Yes.
You understand? He runs things. He rules the universe.
Yes,
and he established the earth and he appointed men to govern the affairs of the nation. Jesus says, render unto Caesar
what is Caesar?
The things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's.
Yes.
The democratic process is Caesar's in Antigua and Barbuda. And so I'm appealing to you, if you're watching me now, I think you would be very irresponsible if you decide that you're not going to register and you're not going to vote. I don't think that's godly.
Yes.
Are you with me?
The truth makes us uncomfortable, but then it sets us free.
That's right. So just consider that. Things that are Caesar's, Jesus says, honor those. And things of Caesar's, not just taxes.
Very much so.
It has to do with the system of governance also. And we're living in a democratic society, and the democratic society says that the government is of the people, by the people, for the people.
Let's talk a little bit about Success Concepts International. You're going into politics. You're in politics. You're in. You've been nominated, right?
That's right, Julie.
What is it going to take away from Success Concept International? Is it going to add? How are you going to be managed it too? I know that your wife has been a very strong supporter.
Very good. I think in the beginning when I said no at first, I was thinking about Success Concepts International, my services as a drug awareness, alcohol prevention educator with Crossroads, and somehow I love doing those, and I was thinking that I'm going to have to give those up. And when I consider it, I said, no, what I'm going to do should facilitate and enhance what I'm doing as an inspirational facilitator, as an educator. So I am now seeing myself as a statesman, as an educator on a different level. And that is why every time I find myself in a situation, I always find myself facilitating learning, and encouraging people. When we get to our my projections, for the St. Peter's constituency, you'd discover how much empowering the projections are.
Yes.
Which are reflecting my own passions, you see, as an educator.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your community service. I know that you've been doing a lot of community service, and you can tie that in with your campaign. Let us know a little bit about that.
Oh, wonderful indeed. Community service, I think I was born to do that.
Yes.
I'm one of those persons who, my parents will tell you that I always say I wanted to do two things. At first, I wanted to be a preacher,
Yes.
I'm talking about at age 4 and so on,
Yes.
those kind of ages. And by age 5, when I started school, it shifted, and I wanted to be a teacher.
Yes.
And I was teaching since I was 5 and 6. I'd come home. I can remember that, and my parents would tell you that. We lived in an area where there were lots of banana trees and so on. My aunt had a lot of banana trees. And the banana trees became my students.
And you would beat them?
I beat them. Because that's what I saw,
Yes,
teachers
yes.
with straps over their backs and so on. I've come to discard that kind of looks of a teacher now.
Yes.
But what I saw, I saw myself doing that, and I played the role of a teacher with my strap, and I'm giving them spelling and teaching them to count, and
Yes.
I'm imagining that they're spelling the word wrong, and they would get 2 licks. Interesting, isn't it?
Yes,
so
it is.
my community services started a long time since I was a child. By 12 years old, I was singing in the choir in my church there. I want to shout out the Moravians.
Yes.
That's where I preached my first sermon. I was involved in the youth group there at the Bethany Moravian Church in Pigotts, and I was the only tenor in the choir. By the time I
Yes.
got to primary school, I was identified as a leader. The teacher would leave me in charge. And if there's a child who didn't understand the math concept, I was put aside with that child to teach him, and so on. So I want to shout out Mr. Dinson Parker and Miss Shirley Skeppel Francis, who were my mentors. Leno Henry and all these guys were great teachers. I can't call all the names. So the other folks whom I didn't call don't feel jealous, But there was I, and then by as I got late into my teen years, by 14 years, I was singing with the Combined Schools Choir. It was a national Combined Schools Choir. We represent Antigua at the 1976 Carry Festa in Jamaica, and so on. So I've been always involved in community activities and so on. By the time I left school, I'm into teaching in the Potters community, working there and doing well and touching lives and making a positive difference. Then I established SCI in 1997, and there is where I think my community services just went up.
Yes.
And I'm touching thousands of lives. I started in 1997 with Student Success Seminar for grade 6 students. And
Yes.
children who were preparing in those days, they had to do an exam. And so we'll bring them out every Christmas for 1 week, and we're going through and drilling them and inspiring them to see themselves as they can. I can always hear the children saying, I think I can. I know I can. I can. I will. I must pass my common entrance exams.
Yes,
I would have them saying that every day. When they leave that seminar, the principals and teachers would say to me, I don't know what you've done. These children came back here like they could
Conquer
move
the world, yes.
They could move mountains. So that was wonderful. And then we introduced things like Easter enrichment camps. We were the first to do anything at Easter called a camp. We were the movers of that. We're the ones responsible for summer camps in Antigua the way you know it today. You cannot tell me, if you've been in Antigua, that prior to 2001, 2002,
Yes.
you have not seen summer camps conducted the way they're conducting today. We were the ones who began that in 2002. We have attendance in the hundreds. No other camp had those kinds of attendances.
Excellent.
And so I'm happy to know that I've been a mover and a shaker in the community. And then we introduce programs such as a summer fitness camp, you know. This one here, we get moving. You see the one in July, it runs for children who are kindergarten all the way up to grade 6. And in the mornings, we'll have them stay in touch with the books and reading and so on. In the afternoons, they get physical and moving around, jumping around, the games and the music and the whole works. But this fitness camp that takes place in August, 2 weeks, we're not in the books and all that kind of stuff. It's movements, climbing up Buggy Peak, walking from St. John's to Long Bay, and you know, all kinds of crazy things, you know, take place in that 2 weeks camp. And then we introduce a secondary school beginners workshop for children who have passed the exams and they're now in secondary school, and we bring them out for an entire day and we drill them again. Then we introduce what we call a confidence building workshop, which is different from the student success seminar again. And for grade 6 students, we did some for what we call the senior students when they had post-primary and so on. So we work with schools all over the island. I might have given service to almost every school, private and government on the island. And then in 2001, Crossroads Center established what they call a Breaking the Cycle Drug Awareness Prevention Education Program. And guess who they call on as one of the educators?
Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific. And I've been there since, you know. I work as a private contractor for them since 2001. I'm the longest serving educator since 2001. I work in over 30 schools across the island, including Barbuda. So I have been going to Barbuda every year for 1 week since 2001. And it's exciting, you know. So that pushes me in a situation again to just meet other people. Literally, when I go anywhere in Antigua, somebody say, Mr. Terrific, you know, anywhere. And how does that benefit me as a politician? You know it's benefiting me big time, you know. Because I actually serve as a drug awareness prevention educator in Parham and Pears School for many years. So quite a number of students would have been familiar with me. And so the parents by extension. And so I'm one of those politicians. I was told that by my team members. They are not accustomed to going into Parham, especially, and Pears campaigning without getting a lot of cussing. You
Seriously?
Know? In times past. And I must say that I have not had those kinds of experiences.
Thank God.
As a matter of fact, we've come across parents who probably wanted to, but by the time their child run out and begin to get excited about Mr. Terrific, they have to, you know. So that's a plus for me.
Definitely.
And that's great.
You know, since we were talking about children, let's talk about your family. Let's talk about your girls and your wife.
Terrific indeed. My family, I have a great family. Can I be real?
Yes, of course.
You know,
it's realness.
When I left school in 1980, 1980, yes, 81, yes, 1980. In 1980, I left school 1980 of July 1980, graduated from high school. By the way, I should have told you, I went to Clay Hall. I can't have this interview not mention Clay Hall Secondary School. When I graduated, well, we don't have graduation in those days. When I left Potter's Primary School, I went to Clay Hall Secondary School. There was what we call an automatic transfer in those days, so you didn't have to pass an exam to go into secondary school. And so in 1974, I think, I went across to the Clay Hall Secondary School, did quite well there, until I became distracted in 4th form, you know, as a teenage boy. I must say I became distracted. I was first place in my class, 1st form, 2nd form, all 3 terms. The 3rd term, I dropped to 2nd because there was a guy, he repeated the class and he was a little more advanced and so on. By the next term, I beat him by far. And the 3rd term, I beat him by far. By 4th and 5th form, when I should be getting really serious, that's when I started to get a little distracted, you know. And the distraction turned into a situation where 2 of us, a little girl and myself, became a little mischievous. Yes, and she ended up pregnant.
Okay.
You know, and unfortunately, I'm glad that we have this situation to clear that.
Yes.
Because I actually heard the folks from the opposition alluding to that situation as if it was a present thing. You know?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Our pleasure to tell. Tell us.
Imagine this, and I'm happy that it is actually coming out here.
Yes.
We were teenagers.
Yes.
I was 2 years older than she is. I think we were 14, 16,
Okay.
thereabout. And we got into what we call trouble and so on. And so she became pregnant.
Yes.
So I became a father as a
Very
teenager.
early age, yes.
But in those days, I was a very good student and very manageable
Yes.
and so on. And I had a good relationship with my teachers and so on. So they didn't dig anything, so they allowed me to finish school, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not saying that the young lady had to, you know,
Yes.
drop out of school and so on. But we have maintained a good relationship. And we give birth to a son, and his name is Arden. And he lives in the United States of America. He's married.
Excellent.
And he has 2 children. So I'm a grandfather that you didn't know.
Terrific.
Can you imagine that?
Imagine
And let me
that.
shock you guys who are listening now. My first granddaughter, Nidra, beautiful girl. I'm planning to have her down for summer.
Oh,
this
excellent.
year. And she is now 15 years old.
Look at that.
Can you imagine that?
Yes.
And he has 2 girls. The second one is 10 years old.
Okay.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing them in the summer here with me, you know. So I'm going to have my children and my grandchildren here,
Excellent.
you know, just celebrating the summer months with me. And so I have, and then I was not always a Christocentric in my consciousness.
Yes.
You know, what people call born again, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
In 1982, I raised my levels of consciousness and awareness were raised.
Okay.
And I repented.
Yes.
You know, the word repentance actually means to change your mind and change
Mindset, yes,
the way you
very
think
much
and
so.
act, you know. So in that sense, I shifted my mindset and so on, and I embraced the Sabbath. So I became a Seventh-day Adventist from
Okay.
the Moravian. But we've always had a good relationship anyhow, even with the Moravians. As time went by, they would invite me back and I would preach in the Moravian church or
Okay.
conduct stuff because we've always maintained a good relationship.
Yes.
I'm quite unorthodox in my thinking. You know,
Yes.
I like to go against convention sometimes. You know? And so I became a Seventh-day Adventist in 1982. You know, that would have been 1 year after I began working. Got
Yes.
into contact with some people at Potter's School who were Seventh-day Adventists, and we were interacting and sharing. I just want to shout out Mr. Vincent Lewis
Okay.
and Miss Venita Joseph, who had a strong impact on my life there at the Potter's School in 1981. And by 1982, they were so influential. Also, my sister, Francine, who just passed away, she served as principal at the Jennings Secondary School. She just passed away this year. And she also had a strong influence on my shifting in my consciousness
Yes.
and so on. And so by 1988, I had found an harvest of feminine delight.
I love that description.
You like that one?
A
I must say
harvest
that
of
you
feminine.
you
Oh
yourself
my,
are a
thank you
harvest
so
of
much.
feminine delight, Nikki, you know. And so we courted for 5 years.
Nice.
Not because we really wanted to, but I had finished teacher training college and so on, and we decided that we will not get married until she would have finished
Okay.
teacher training, because she's a teacher also. So we
Yes.
have 2 educators in the
Yes.
same house, you know what
Imagine
that means. And so by 1988, as soon as she was through with college, maybe 2-3 weeks after, on the 7th of August, 1988, we were married. Not all
remember that
husbands,
date,
not
you
all
know.
husbands know the date of their
Imagine-
marriage, right? So you know that's very special to me.
Yes, indeed.
So we're going to be celebrating our 26th wedding anniversary
Excellent.
this year, and I'm still married to one woman.
I like that. Good harvest. Good harvest.
Out
in
of that
1988.
union, we have 3 champions. So in addition to Arden, my
Yes.
first child that
Yes.
came into teenage years, I'm happy that we did not abort him. you
Yes,
know?
very much so.
Then I would not have had these wonderful grandchildren, you know, that
Yes.
kind of stuff. And so from that union, we have 3 children, 1 boy, 2 girls. So that's
Okay.
why I always say I have 2 boys, 2 girls.
girls.
I don't
Yes.
usually differentiate, so people would think that the 2 boys with my wife
Yes,
and the
yes.
2 girls. But we actually have 1 boy. He's 24 years old.
Okay.
Yes, and he's an entrepreneur. himself. He's a very good pizza maker, you know, and he's into culinary arts. By the way, all of our children did home economics in school, including himself, and he passed with flying colors.
Excellent.
So I'm proud of him, and so he's using the home economic skills that he's learned and so on. Did some things at the Hospitality Training Institute and so on, and he's doing his thing, and he's growing. Then my first girl, she graduated with honors from the Antigua Seven Adventist School 2 years ago, I think, and she's in her first year at the Bunker Hill Community College in Boston. She was actually born there. So we sent her back there to finish her college.
Yes.
And I'm proud to did I tell you the first boy's name? He is Caldane Roberts.
Caldane,
and my first girl is Rocher. That's my little princess. You know, I've had 2 boys. and this next pregnancy, I was hoping and wishing it would be a girl, you know, because I love girl children. And you know, when that child was born, I followed the labor from beginning to end. I was the photographer, the cameraman, you know.
Yes.
So I had her well covered, and she has been doing very well in school. She actually, her final grade at the end of this academic year, her freshman year, was 4.0.
Okay.
Grade point average. And so I want to congratulate you, Rocher. Daddy's proud of you. You know your daddy's girl, right?
But what about the next
And then the
girl?
last one, I'm coming here. They're both daddy's girls. But you know how it is. I know when she watches, she's going to say, Daddy, you see, I tell you prefer Rocher than I am. No. She knows she's in a different bracket. Both of them are uniquely placed and position where I'm concerned. The last one, she's 16 years old, and she's presently doing, probably she's doing Spanish, her Spanish exams right now. She's doing her CXCs at this time, and she hopes to graduate from high school with flying colors, I hope. And so that's where we are. So my last child would be graduated, and I should tell you my first girl, she's doing a combination of psychology and sociology. Right. She actually wants to be a life coach. And so she's doing those courses in preparation to become Antigua's first certified life coach. You know. And so that's her dream. And she'll be returning to work along with me. And so on. Well, I'm in politics now, so we'll see how that works out. Maybe it's a good thing so that she could come back and run things, you know. Because I'm committed to the next 15 years of my life to political activities in Antigua and Barbuda, regardless of how it turns out at the poll. I am committed. I've committed the next 15 years of my life to that. And my last girl there, she wants to be what we call a restaurant manager, you know. So she'll be going to the Hospitality Training Institute. She's not going to sixth form A levels. She already knows what she wants. And she's going straight to hospitality training, and she'll be doing her associate degree there in, I think, what they call it there, something restaurant.
Okay, so we've spoken about family. We've spoken about your education and some of the work that you've been doing. We've spoken about Success Concept International. Let's talk about your plans for your constituency.
Well, plans for the constituency, I must tell you, and this is strange. I have not been in politics before, but I'm proud to suggest to you that even before election, I was able to influence some change in St. Peter's constituency. We have had road work. If you drive up Parham, there you'd see both sides of the road clean, you know, that kind of thing. So it's kind of safe to walk up from, let's say, Painters all the way up to Parham. Both sides of the road, all of the overgrown are out. We've had some road works going on in the constituency. I know we've had road works in Painters, some in Painters Paradise, and we've had road works going on in Wales and so on. We're working on Parham right now to get at least 1 or 2 roads done, and in pairs, you know. I know they've had a little sore idea with their roads, and we're hoping to have their basketball in pairs, at least Barbara Green or paved, you know, even before the election. And somebody called me one day from the community, and they were very disturbed about the appearance of their clinic. And they said that their clinic has been, you know, ignored and neglected for over 40 years, nothing has been done. The tiles, so when I had a visit there myself and one or two members from my team, I was very shocked to see that people working under such conditions. The tiles are, tearing off. It was those kind of linoleum tiles and so on.
Yes.
They were all messed up and so on. The cupboards in the kitchen are broken down. They have all kind of old time stuff working there. They still have that kind of thing. Testing the ladies are kind of funny,
Okay, yes.
We're living in modern times. And so I got in contact with the Ministry of Health right away and had them come up. I got ABS television to come in to see what's going on.
Yes.
And they promised them some things from the Ministry of Health, some of the things that they could have had and didn't realize they could have had those things. So those things happened. And I checked with the Ministry of Public Works and what can you do, right away. And I'm happy to report to you, by the end of this week, we would have had the clinic renovated. All of the tiles are changed, the doors are changed, they're working on the cupboards, the entire building would have been painted over. We're going to be doing some landscaping on Sunday coming there. So I'll be going up there and I tell them I want to come and paint the door myself so that I can be on record.
Yes, to paint the door yourself.
That's right, So I'm just telling you that even before I get into office, something's happening.
Yes.
So I want the folks of St. Peter's to know that much more will be happening in St. Peter's. And that gives me an opportunity right now to introduce to you some of the plans that I have for St. Peter's. When I talk about it, I get excited, One of the first things I want to see is that every section in St. Peter's become what we call a registered community association. I know Fitch's Creek has one, Painters East has one, and some other community, I think Gunthrops has one. But I want to see Lightfoot establish themselves. I think they started, but things went out of whack. So I would be setting out very early and bright in my services to St. Peter's, subsequent to the elections on June 12th, to encourage the community to come together and establish themselves as a community association. Through the community association, they could lobby with the government, through the representative, through the politicians, to get things done in their constituency. Roadworks, neighborhood watches, all those kinds of stuff. Work to get recreation centers and all that kind of thing in there through the community association. Lots of things can happen through the community association. Then I will establish, with the help of my team, of course, and the people who work along with me, we call ourselves Team Terrific.
Team Terrific.
That's right.
What a terrific team.
That's right. And so we will see in St. Peter's what we call a St. Peter's Development Corporation.
Okay.
And we're using the St. John's Development Corporation as a model. So we'll be working, we're inviting St. Peter's constituents, regardless of what side you have a conviction for, to become shareholders in this corporation. And so through the corporation, when the corporation makes money, the constituents make money. That's awesome. It's going to be a great program. Through the corporation, we're going to be working on the infrastructure in St. Peter's. We want to revive the market experience in St. Peter's, Parham, the first town. We want to look at some of those historical landmarks. We want to establish what we call a St. Peter's trail, that St. Peter's walk, and St. Peter's tour. That's a better thing. And so people will start at a particular place, and we go to the St. Peter's Anglican Church, which was built by slaves, very historic, and so on. We go to the old market and provide people with information, even tourists. We want to create a tourist destination there. Parham Harbor, or we call it Parham Fisheries, and then we want to create some booths and so on there so that the young people, entrepreneurs could fly their trade and so on there. And so that's the St. Peter's Development Corporation. Is exciting. And one of the things I'd love to do before the 5 years expire is to establish the St. Peter's Empowerment Center. We're looking at a 2-story building. We're going to be encouraging the government to establish a daycare center and
Okay.
hold it right there, because there's a daycare thing, the community daycare center, but the building is dilapidated, broken down, and so on.
Yes.
So we want to replace it, and I'm putting this on tape right now. We're planning to approach both panel people to make significant contribution
Yes, indeed.
to that empowerment center, because their headquarters will be in Crabs.
Okay.
They have to pass Parham.
Okay.
So here's the what I'm going to be using as my
Your pitch?
my pitch.
Yes.
That's it. You know, when you give us that, every time people pass there, they will see it. So it has two uses. It's used as a showpiece for you, what you can do, and it serves as an empowerment center for the
Very
people of
much
St.
so.
Peters, and specifically Parham. All kinds of things are going to be happening there. We're going to carry the computer access center right there for children who don't have access, you know, to the internet and so on. They can go right in the middle of right at the entrance of
Yes.
the village right there. So lots of things will be happening there. In the afternoons, we'll have space for children who want to come and do their homework, study. If parents are coming home late from school, we have a situation, we have a supervisory program
Yes.
going on there in the afternoon after school until the parents get home from school. Lots of stuff are going to be happening. As a matter of fact, we are looking to establish our own food co-op.
Okay.
You know what that
Okay.
is?
Yes, yes,
So the St. Peter's would own its own supermarket, you know.
Okay.
I love to call it a food distribution center. And the members of the food distribution center will be the owners of the food distribution center.
Okay.
You see, what I'm focusing on is in empowerment.
Very important.
You see, because I've met a culture there that wherever it started, unfortunately, where people are just waiting for somebody to give them something. Not the entire St. Peter's constituency.
Yes.
You know, certainly not the folks in Fitch's Creek and painters and so on, but there are some clusters of individuals in our dear Parham and Pears
Yes.
and so on who I think they were spoiled into thinking that the politician is just there to give you something. Whenever you have a problem, you just run to the politicians and beggy, and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I want to change that paradigm. I
Yes.
want to see a shift in that kind of mindset
Set.
and to let the constituents know that they were born for accomplishments. They were engineered for success, and they're gifted beyond their wildest dreams. Now, if that is so, then whatever they want to become and do in life, they're already gifted
Yes.
by their creator. And I want to be that person to bring that light to them.
June 12th is the date.
You see my hands, right? That's a symbol of victory.
June 12th is the date for the elections.
Yes.
The United Progressive Party government. You're representing the United Progressive Party government.
That's right.
I remember when we were talking early in the conversation, you said that you received a call. If that call had come from any individual other than the United Progressive Party government, would you have considered it?
I wouldn't be blunt, but I want to think that one of the reasons I responded to the call
Yes.
is because it came from the present governing body. And I am very much obedient to the word.
Yes.
Let every soul be subject unto higher powers, and it's talking about the government.
Yes.
And so, because it came through the present government, I think it made it a little easier for me
Okay.
to respond affirmatively.
Okay.
It was easy for me to say yes,
Yes.
because it was the government, and I just think that I should be synchronous with the government, you know.
Yes.
My thoughts and my behavior should have been in harmony with the activities of governance.
Okay.
And so, to answer your question, I don't think I would, as a matter of fact, I've been asked by other, I wouldn't call other
Yes,
names,
yes.
to do that, and
Okay.
I refused.
Yes.
It wasn't the Antigua Labour Party, some other party that was coming in, you know.
Yes, yes.
And so I told the folks that I don't think I would have considered if it was not the United Progressive Party.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, you'd be shocked to know that This is the first time I'm wearing paraphernalias
Are you
in my life.
serious?
Yes.
How does it
I look
feel?
so seasoned, right?
You look like a pro. I never
I
even
look like
noticed.
a pro. I'm just giving out something here.
Yes.
I've never been to a public meeting in my life,
Okay.
until now.
Oh, wow.
Because I was that kind of, the
Okay.
folks who think, well, okay, you're going to cast your vote, but it's nobody's business who you support and that kind of stuff. And so
Yes.
I had that
Yes.
paradigm,
Yes.
And I think I was quite disengaged. I think when I look back now, I think it was irresponsible living.
I think so. Okay.
But I think I'm more conscious now. I feel very comfortable with the United Progressive Party under the leadership of the Honorable Winston Baldwin Spencer.
Yes.
I think he brings the kind of leadership to Antigua and Barbuda that we need now.
Yes.
And I really don't see this as a season for change where there is governance.
Yes.
Change where
Mindset.
where mindset is concerned, but not where governance is concerned in terms of who takes charge of the administration in Antigua and Barbuda. So I'm quite comfortable running on the United Progressive Party's ticket, and I am confident come June 12 that we will be bringing home that seat for the United Progressive Party, and that will be history, because no other the Antigua Labour Party has always had representation in the St. Peter's constituency. So I'm looking forward to a new thing on June 12th. I'm looking forward to the writing of history in St. Peter's constituency. And I'm happy to be a part of that history.
We're making history right now.
Right now.
Right now we're making history. So let's talk a little bit about, nomination day. It was on the 21st, just a couple of days ago. How did you feel on nomination day?
If you were following, you realized that the folks on the other side were hoping that on nomination day, I would have been declined.
Well, that's news to me.
Yes, it was in the air, Mr. Terrific is going to have a problem because he's the minister of religion. And according to the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda, no person who is a minister of religion shall contest for public office. That's clear. And so the folks thought they had one there, and me, boy. He's a minister, he's a pastor, he has his own church and all that kind of stuff, What they didn't understand is that all spiritual teachers are not necessarily ministers of religion.
So. Yes.
I don't even consider myself religious, and denominational.
Yes.
I operate a independent, non-denominational ministry, the Agape Fellowship in Painters. It's a Sabbath-keeping fellowship. We embrace the Sabbath like the Seventh Adventists, because I came from a Seventh Adventist background.
Yes.
And so on. No antagonism against all Seventh Adventist brothers and sisters.
Yes.
It's just that I came to a point couple of years ago that I have to listen to the voice within, and the voice is shift. And so I shifted by myself, and people come and join. I didn't, go in there and preach against the Adventists. As a matter of fact, we embraced quite a bit of the doctrinal points of the Seventh Adventist Church. We try not to be judgmental of anybody. So in our fellowship, we don't judge people in the way they appear for church and so on. And so on. So if they put on a little earring, the girls put on an earring, We don't get carried away with that. If the ladies come in a pants and so on, we don't get carried away with that and so on. We think a little higher than that and so on. But we embrace their principles of health and so on. We still do not eat pork. And anything that doesn't have scales in the waters, according to Leviticus 11 and so on. We embrace those things. As a matter of fact, and it's not salvific. I don't want people to get the impression that I'm saying here that if you eat pork, you're going to hell and that kind of stuff. No. We have done that for health purposes. As a matter of fact, in my home, we do not eat chicken and so on. I think my son might do a little thing, on the side and so on. We don't eat chicken, we don't eat beef, we don't eat any red meats and all that kind of stuff. As a matter of fact, my two girls have never eaten chicken in their lives. Because my wife and I practiced that. We married 26 years. They're 19 and 16. My son is 24. After he left school, in secondary school, when, you got a little thing, taste a little chicken and so on. So he has been violating. But the girls, the girls have decided that they don't want that. They don't miss it. They've never eaten Kentucky chicken in their lives.
Okay.
My girl is in Boston. She prepares her own food and so on. We eat fish,
Yes.
fish products.
Yes.
Have a little cheese maybe once a week and a little egg maybe once a week. My first girl, she doesn't eat eggs either. But the last girl, she eats eggs. Mommy and my first girl, they don't eat eggs and so on. So that's our practice. We're having fun,
Okay. June 12th. I just
June
got to
12th.
keep repeating the date, June 12th, because it's a very serious time. For the next 5 years, the entire world is shifting into an international internet base for entrepreneurship, for advertising, for everything that we're doing. And it's vital that
Positive shift.
Yeah, positive shift. And it is vital that the decision that is made on June 14, that persons make those decisions fully understanding why they're making that decision. For those who are going out to vote on June 12th, what can you say to them that gives them that final sending it home, that when I get into that booth, my ex goes to next to Mr. Terrific?
Let me speak to the constituents at St. Peter's. When you get out to that voting booth on June 12th, listen up. Your decision is not about Roberts, Michael, or Samuel. Your decision is about the will of God for St. Peter's constituency. And I challenge you, when you get in that voting booth, regardless of your conviction, you stop and ask God, what is your will for St. Peter's constituency where I am concerned? I'm confident if you pray that Mr. Terrific will come home. Because I believe with all of my heart that I am very much in the will of the Father. So that's what I have to tell you. And vote for good governance. Vote for someone who brings emphasis on respect, integrity, dignity, and decency to the St. Peter's constituency.
Okay. You were talking a little bit earlier, and you were mentioning the kind of mindset that is presently in the atmosphere about being given stuff by a politician, or you call it hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
I know that for the United Progressive Party ticket, it has always been a hand up.
Hand up. Teach you how to fish.
Teach you how to fish so you can fish for yourself. Not
That's
to give
right.
you a fish today and come back 3 weeks and give
Excellent.
you another fish. Final words, wrapping up our conversation today, your right to know, our pleasure to tell. How can you put that in your final words to send that message home that we really need to learn to fish for ourselves?
Yes, I've been telling my constituents, let's fish together so that we can eat together. As a matter of fact, I told my team, and we're working with quite an energetic team, and we are growing that team to at least 50 persons.
Okay.
And I said to the team, after election, Team Terrific becomes Team Terrific Incorporated.
Yes.
You know what that means,
Yes,
right?
indeed,
We get into other kinds of business. We can make money. And you know what kind of money we're going to make? We are going to find ways in which to help other people get what they want.
Yes.
And when you help others get what they want, you get what you want.
Very
That's a
much so.
biblical principle. Give,
And
it shall be given unto you. That's a
down.
powerful business principle that
Yes.
business owners need to embrace and practice. And so I'm convincing my team, we're going to find ideas.
Yes.
Just as we come together to strategize, to reach out there on the campaign trail, we're going to come together at the branch office to strategize on ideas as to how we can help other people and help ourselves.
Okay, so for this section of Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure
To tell. You're right to know, our pleasure to tell.
You're right to know, our pleasure to tell. I want to thank you very much for coming today. Is there any other final words that you would like to leave with us? And I do have a final question after you answer that question.
Very good. I just want to commend you on the wonderful job that you're doing, and You're Right to Know, and our pleasure to tell. And I want to tell the nation of Antigua and Barbuda to stay in alignment with good governance.
You've been doing your research, my final question, you've been doing your research on politics and, the various politicians across the world, etc. Once you win your seat, what ministry have you been most eager about? Which ministry, sir?
I love youth development.
Yes.
I love social transformation.
Yes.
I love ecclesiastical affairs.
Yes.
So anything along those lines. I'm not really passionate about academics and the conventional education and the kind of stuff.
Okay.
I'm not passionate about that, but to see people learn, take responsibility for their learning and so on. I'm very much big on that. And so there is not a day pass when I don't read something personal, developmental.
Okay.
And so I spend at least 15 to half an hour, 15 minutes to half an hour every day reading developmental material.
Okay.
I do not spend let a day go by without reading the word.
Very much so.
Right now I'm in 1 Samuel and it's instructing me about political behavior in a very powerful way. So, so that's where we are, and so youth development, social transformation, transform yourself. And I love to tell people, if you're not satisfied with your results, change your habits.
Yes.
If you're not satisfied with your habits, change your behavior or your actions.
Yes.
If you're not satisfied, in order to change your habits and your actions, you must change your attitude.
Yes.
And in order for you to change your attitude, you must change your expectations in life. And in order for you to change your expectations in life, you must change your beliefs. That's your mindset.
Yes.
And in order for you to change your beliefs, you must change your thinking. And if you're going to change your thinking, you better change your environment.
Very much so.
Your
Mr.
atmosphere.
Terrific. Clephane W.
Terrific
Roberts. I want to thank you for coming today on Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell. Our interview was definitely terrific, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I want to personally congratulate you. I've been following your work over the number of years, and education is indeed the driving force to success. I want to say thank you for answering that inner voice that pushed you to be nominated to go on the United Progressive Party ticket, and we bless you and send you off in Jesus' name.
I received that so much, and I say to my audience, read and grow rich. Change your thinking, change your life.
Thank you so much. And for those at home listening and our viewing audience, you've just been in tune to another segment of Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell. And we were talking to Mr. Clephane W. Terrific Roberts. And he is running on the United Progressive Party ticket for the St. Peter's constituency. Stay tuned for another session of Your Right to Know, Our Pleasure to Tell. I am Malika Moffat.